like
বুঝলে?
organization.
Start.
Yes, yes, sir. Okay, starting.
So namaskar. So we were discussing role of religion and cultures in India and in West. And we have already delivered 3 sessions. And in these sessions, I will be recapping whatever I have discussed in my last 3 sessions. So it will be just recap of the last 3 sessions. So our topic was role of religion and culture in West as well as in India. And first, let us define. First, we define what is culture itself, culture of a people. And we define, through the lens of Sri Aurobindo, that culture of a people may be roughly described as the expression of a consciousness of life. And what does it mean? Animal does not have culture. And why animal does not have culture? Because animal does not possess consciousness. We the human people have only culture. Why? We have our own consciousness. So what is culture? Expression of our life consciousness, our attitude towards life, our attitudes towards goal of life. So whole consciousness of life, when we express, this expression is called culture. So Maharishi says the culture of a people may be roughly described as the expression of a consciousness of life. Because animal does not have culture, because animal does not possess culture, because animal does not possess consciousness. But we the human people do. And as we possess consciousness, we express this consciousness of life. And this expression is called culture. But this culture has 3 sides. This culture has 3 sides. Namely, a side of thought, side of ideal, side of upward will, and soul's aspiration. This is the third side of our consciousness of life. We have a upward will, we have an aspect of our thought, we have our ideal, we have our upward will. Upward will means which is not our normal desire. That is food, shelter. Beyond food, shelter, we have our upward will. So this is the first aspect of a culture: thought, ideal, higher will, and as well as soul's aspiration. And what is the second aspect of a culture? The side of creative self-expression, appreciative aesthesis, intelligence, and imagination. These 4 constitute the second aspect of a culture. And what is the third aspect? Third aspect is practical and outward formulation. The first aspect, the aspect of ideal, thought, upward will, and soul's expressions, are expressed through religion and philosophy. So this is the role or position of religion and philosophy in culture of a people. So first aspect of the culture is expressed through religion and its philosophy. If you are to know about the highest ideal of Greek people, you have to get into the hearts of Greek philosophy. Without going through the Greek philosophy, you cannot have the idea of Greek's ideal. So first aspect is expressed. First aspect of culture is expressed through religion and culture. Then the second aspect, the side of creative self-expression. appreciative aesthesis, intelligence, and the imagination. These four aspects of a culture are expressed through art, poetry, and literature. This is the second aspect. And the third aspect, the side of practical and outward formulation. This third aspect is expressed through society and politics. So these are the seven limbs of culture, seven parts of culture. If the first one is religion, second is philosophy, third is art, fourth is poetry, fifth is literature, and art includes all. And the sixth element is society, seven is politics. And by these seven ingredients, Maharishi has encompasses every aspect of human life. And these seven means or seven instruments or seven ingredients focuses on three specific aspects of our life. Religion and philosophy focuses on our thought, on our ideal, on our upward will and soul's aspiration. Art, poetry, literature takes care of our creative self-expression, appreciative aesthesis, intelligence and imagination. Our politics and society take care of our practical and outward formulation. But Maharishi says one thing again, none of them expresses the whole secret spirit behind. So none means neither philosophy, nor religion, nor art, nor literature, nor poetry, nor society, nor politics cannot express fully the secret behind, secret spirit behind. But all these seven ingredients draws their inputs from the secret self. So none of them express the whole secret spirit behind, but they derive from it their main ideas and their current character. And together they make up its soul, mind and body. If you are asked what is the soul of a culture, the answer is religion and philosophy. And then if you are asked what is the mind of a culture, it is the art, poetry and the literature. And what is the body of a culture? It is the society and the politics. But now, what is Indian? What is the position of philosophy in India? We are focusing on these two aspects only right now, in West as well as in India. Maharishi says in Indian civilization, religion and philosophy dominates every aspect of our life. Unlike West. So this is the first characteristic. Religion, this is the first aspect of the characteristics of Indian civilization, that philosophy and religion dominates every aspect of life here in India. This is the first characteristic. Second characteristics, there is a peculiar relationship between religion and philosophy here in India, unlike West. In India, philosophy enlightens religion, and religion dynamites or makes dynamic philosophy. Or to put it in other words, religion always enlightened by philosophy. Philosophy is always made dynamic by the religion. Without religion, philosophy here in India would also have been an ideative aspect only. It is only because of religion in India, philosophy is a vibrant thing. It is not only an ideative thing or mere speculation. So in India, philosophy is a dynamic thing. And next thing we discussed, uh, that next thing we discussed, then what is the main characteristics of Indian culture? Because we are discussing the role of religion and philosophy in culture. Maharishi says the fact behind is that Indian culture has been from the beginning, and has remained. Still it has remained. You will not find any trace of this fact in the surface India. If you are to find out the trace of this statement, you have to get into the inner India, or or uh, you have to travel through the inmost India, that is to say, the soul of India. So Maharishi says the fact behind is that Indian culture has been from the beginning and has remained still a spiritual and inward-looking religio-philosophical culture. So this is the fundamental characteristics of Indian culture: a spiritual and inward-looking religio-philosophical culture. Then everything else in it has derived from that one central and original peculiarity. Everything else means its art, its literature, its poetry, its religion, its society, its politics, though imperfectly, draws everything from this spiritual philosophy only. Without this spiritual philosophy, India would cease to exist. So, or has been in some way dependent on it. Everything else dependent on this spiritual philosophy or subordinate to it. Even external life has been subjected to the inward loop of the spirit. So this is the claim of Indian mind. So this is what India claims. This is what India claims, and you can believe in or you may not believe in. That which is claimed for the Indian mind and its civilization is a high spirituality, high on all the summits of thought and religion, but it permits everything, permitting art, literature, religious practice, and social ideas, and affecting even the ordinary man's attitude to life. This is what India claims. You can accept it, you can reject it. Then let us move on to the attitude of average Occidental man towards philosophy. To understand this fact, we have to understand two specific ways of life. There are no third ways of life. There are only two ways of life. And what are those two ways? First one is the spiritual and religio-philosophical view of life. Spiritual and religio-philosophical view of life and government of civilization by its ideas and motives. This is the first way of life. Religio-spiritual philosophical view of life and government of civilization by its ideas and motives. Number one. And the second way of life is the rationalistic and external view of life. Rationalistic and external view of life and the satisfaction of our desires. And government of the civilization, intellectual and practical reason. These are the two ways of life. One is religious, spiritual, philosophical ideas of life and government of civilization by its motives and ideals. And the other one is rationalistic, external view of life and the satisfaction of desire and government of civilization by the intellectual and practical reason. These are the two views of life. Then Maharishi says the typical Occidental mind. The typical Occidental mind which prolongs the typical Occidental mind has been almost entirely fashioned by the second. Almost entirely fashioned by the second. Philosophy has no role in their life. Philosophy has no role in their life, except with a little exception. But there are certainly very little exceptions. So, as has been almost entirely fashioned by the second view. So, this is the first thing to be noted about Westerners' attitudes towards philosophy. It is the rationalistic view of life, external view of life, satisfaction of desires, and government of civilization by intellectual and practical reason. And the typical Occidental mind has been almost entirely fashioned by the second view. And that is why he says that its attitudes to life has never been governed by a philosophic conception of existence, unlike India. But there are certain exceptions. And what are those exceptions? Except during a brief period of Greco-Roman culture. In that brief period, the Greco-Roman philosophies influenced Western life to a little extent. But then only in a small class of thinking and highly cultured minds. It was not like India, because Quran had made Indian spirituality almost a mass movement. Even illiterate people, Indian people, can discuss with you high spiritual philosophical ideas. So then how it is dominated? So the West is largely dominated by environmental necessity and the practical reason. Environmental necessity means necessity of the mundane life. Necessity of the mundane life. So this is the first fundamental theory or the conception regarding Occidental minds' attitudes towards philosophy. Then philosophy has been, but it is not that philosophy has not been pursued in Europe. Maharishi says philosophy has been pursued in Europe with great and noble intellectual results by the highest mind. But there is a peculiar thing, but very much as a pursuit apart from life. There is no relation with life. But whereas our Gita is all about practical life. Arjuna was being encouraged to kill people in a battlefield. Gita was produced in the battlefield, not in the as the Gita was not produced in the philosophical libraries of a thinker. It was produced in the very battlefield of Kurukshetra. A depressed Arjuna was awakened to fight back. So, philosophy has been pursued in Europe with great and noble intellectual results by the highest mind, but very much as a pursuit apart from life, a thing high and splendid, but ineffective. So, in West, philosophy is high thing, philosophy is splendid thing, but in West, philosophy is ineffective, because it is a pursuit apart from life. Without having any regard to life, it moves only on ideas. But philosophy and religion are the soul of Indian culture, and inseparable from each other and interpenetrative. Interpenetrative and inseparable. You cannot separate religion from philosophy, and also you cannot separate religion from philosophy. But then what is philosophy in India? The philosophical creations of India differs in this respect from the bulk of the metaphysical thinking of Europe. Why? even when they most adopt the intellectual form and method, here in India also, philosophy is nothing but intellectual expression. But even when they most adopt the intellectual form and method, intellectual form and method, intellectual form and method, intellectual form and method, but the real substance is not intellectual. Then what is the real substance of Indian philosophy? Though it is an intellectual production, though it is an intellectual expression, still real substance is not intellectual. So real substance is the result of subtle and profound intelligence. Number one. Number two, working on the stuff of sight and spiritual experience. So subtle and profound intelligence. And the second thing to be noted is sight and spiritual experience. And that is why this is the result of the constant unity India has preserved between philosophy, religion, and yoga. So then what is philosophy? Philosophy is the intuitive or intellectual presentation of the truth, not the idea, not the speculation. Here in India, philosophy is the intuitive or intellectual presentation of the truth that was sought for first through the religious mind and its experience. So first, what is sought for by the religious mind? So this is primary. So philosophy is the intuitive expression or intuitive or intellectual expression of those experiences of religious mind, religious or spiritual mind. And it is never satisfied by discovering truth to the idea. So Indian philosophy has nothing to do with mere idea, though it is satisfactory even to the idea. Though Indian philosophy has nothing to do with logical intelligence, still Indian philosophy is satisfactory to logical intelligence too. They are admirably done. But Indian philosophy has always its eyes turned to realization in the soul's life. So realization of the soul is being expressed intellectually or intuitively. And that is called philosophy here in India. And this is the object of yoga. If we want to summarize the Occidental's attitude towards philosophy. So the average European draws his guiding views not from the philosophy. This is first thing to be noted. Then from where they draws their guiding light, they draws those things from the positive and practical reason. Reason and positive data, not from philosophic substance. So this is the first thing to be noted. Second, yes, he does not disdain philosophy. He absolutely admires philosophy. He does not disdain philosophy or discard it as man-made illusion. But he considers it nebulous. Nebulous means something obscure. Something obscure. It considers it remote and ineffective kind of occupation. Average Europeans honors the philosophers, but he puts their works on the highest shelf of the library of civilization, not to be taken down or consulted. But here in India, we always consult Gita for the solution of our life's practical problem. But those things, they have put them where? They have put their works on the highest shelf of the library of civilization, not to be taken down or consulted except by a few minds, except by a few minds of an exceptional turn. He admires, but he distrusts them. Why? Because but Plato envisions once what he thought. The Plato's idea that the society should be ruled by the philosophers, but Westerners does not recognize his request. So Plato's idea of philosophers as the right rulers and best directors of society seems to him the most fantastic and unpractical of notions. Why? Why it seems to him fantastic and unpractical? Because according to average Occidental mind, philosophy moves on the ideas. It has no relation with the life. And that is why they reject philosophy, though they honors philosophers. Though they honors philosophers, they does not disdain philosophy, but they do not trust it. But here in India, Indian mind holds on the contrary that the rishi, the thinker, the seer of spiritual truth is the best guide, not only of the religious and moral, but the practical lives also. In ancient times, always our kings took advice from the rishis only to solve their problems of politics. The seer, the rishi, is the natural director of society here in India. To the rishis, he attributes the ideals and guiding institutions of his civilization. And Maharishi claims even today also, even in this 21st century also, and even today he is very ready. He means average Indian. Even today he is very ready to give the name to anyone, the name of Rishi, to anyone who can give a spiritual truth which helps you, and who can formulate idea and inspiration which influences religion, ethics, society, even politics. And that is why here in India, philosophies are always the living expressions of one's realization, one's experiences. It is not, philosophy here in India is not a pursuit apart from life. But then why? 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 Because this is because the Indian believes that the ultimate truths are the truths of the spirit. Matter is not the ultimate truth. Practical reason is not the ultimate truth. Intellectuality is not the ultimate truth. Spirit is the ultimate truth. Everything has come from that one truth only. If there was one being, that one has become this world, this phenomenal manifestation. All animals, all human beings, all rivers, all oceans is nothing but his self-expression, his manifestation. His manifestation. And that is why the whole objective of Indian philosophy there are only three objectives of Indian philosophy. And what are those three objectives? First one is knowledge of the spirit. Second is experience of it. And third is right way to spiritual existence. Indian philosophy has to provide me the knowledge about my spirit. He has to provide me the way. Or I have to be able to experience it. Philosophy has to help me. And the third thing, it has to provide me a way for my spiritual existence. These three are the highest responsibility of Indian philosophy. is the knowledge of the spirit, the experience of it, and the right way to a spiritual existence. And this is also the highest significance of Indian religion. And why? And lastly, because Indian culture recognizes the spirit as the truth of our being. And what is our then life? Life is a field. Field for what? Field for the growth and evolution of that spirit. You are nothing but an adhara. You are an adhara. Your life is being used by that spirit only, so that he can evolve further. And it sees the eternal. This spirit for him is the eternal, the infinite, the supreme, the all. Ekonsat Vipra Bahuda Bhadanti. This is the one first conception about Indian culture, Indian philosophy, Indian spirituality. There is only one truth, one reality, with crores of manifestations, with crores of forms, because it is infinite. It is infinite energy, it is infinite power. So ultimate truth cannot be restricted to a single form. It is one reality with crores of infinite number of forms, but it is one reality. And it sees this means this eternal, this infinite, this supreme, the all. It sees this as the secret highest self of all. Highest self means Paramatma. So this eternal is the Paramatma for all jivas, for everything actually, for everything, not only jiva. Even this is the Paramatma of ocean, this is the Paramatma of a river, this is the Paramatma of a hill also. And this is what it calls God. This is what it calls permanent. This is what it calls real. You can even name him differently according to your own wish. And it sees man. Then what is man? It sees man as a soul and power of this being of God in nature. So there is a God in nature. So there is this Paramatma behind this apparent phenomenal existence. And who am I? I am a power of that God. And what is that God? The God in nature. So there is a God in nature, and I am a living power of that God. So what am I? I am living power of the eternal truth. I am not mere transient sort of corporeal things only. I am an eternal existence. I will not die. Accordingly, Maharishi says, whether I die or live, I am always. Life has a continuous stream of existence. We never die. We only come back with a new body, with a new mind, with a new prana. So life does not end. Life is a continuous flowing or continuous stream of existence. But lastly, then what is the significance of that? We have described what is life. Life is a field for growth and evolution of that spirit. And what is the ultimate truth according to Indian culture? Spirit is the ultimate truth according to Indian culture. And it sees this eternal, this infinite, this real, and this it calls God, permanent or real, etc. And who am I? I am living power of God. But which God? God in nature. God in nature. But then what is the significance of that? What I am doing? What is the goal of my life? According to Indian culture. Maharishi writes, the progressive growth of finite consciousness. Why it is called finite consciousness? Because your consciousness, my consciousness, is not infinite consciousness. Only that permanent possesses infinite consciousness. Right now, my destination, Delhi is our non-destination. Or the Harvard or Cambridge University is not my destination. This permanent, this eternal is my ultimate destination. And that is why I have to progressively grow myself towards this infinite consciousness. Right now, I am possessing finite consciousness. So the progressive growth of the finite consciousness of man towards this self, or you may call it towards God, towards this universal, towards this eternal, towards the infinite, whatever you like, towards the self, towards the God, towards the permanent, towards the universal, all is same thing. All is same thing. In a word, again he is writing in a different word. In a word, his growth into spiritual consciousness. So your finite consciousness is not spiritual consciousness. Though it is part of that spiritual consciousness, still it is not per se spiritual consciousness. So what is the meaning of progressive growth of the finite consciousness of man towards God? It means growth. His growth means my growth, man's growth into spiritual consciousness. But how? But how? What is the modus operandi? By the development of his ordinary ignorant natural being. India believes right now you are an ignorant natural being. According to India, there are 7 types of ignorances. If I get time, in my future sessions, I will try to explain those seven ignorances. Right now, according to India, I am an ignorant natural being. Ignorant natural being. I have to develop myself. I have to grow myself. So this is the way. By the development of this ordinary ignorant natural being into what? Into an illumined divine nature. From ordinary nature, I have to develop myself into divine nature. And it is possible. It is possible. Man can become Naruttam from Nara, and after becoming Naruttam, it can even become Narayan. To become Narayan is our human journey, is the destination of our human journey, but not in a single life. I may require 5,000 births. This is for Indian thinking the significance of life and the aim of human existence. So if you are asked what is the aim of human existence and significance of life, I have to grow progressively. The progressive growth of my finite consciousness towards this self. And what is the meaning of it? My growth into spiritual consciousness. This is nothing but my growth into spiritual consciousness. But if you are asked how, by the development of my ignorant being into an illumined divine nature. So these are the 3 things point to be noted. My progressive growth, progressive growth of the finite consciousness of myself. Towards whom? Towards God, towards infinite, towards eternal, towards God, towards real. This is first thing to be noted. Second, what is the meaning of it? It is nothing but my growth into spiritual consciousness. This is what is called my growth into spiritual consciousness. Progressive growth of finite consciousness towards self means my growth of my spiritual consciousness. But how? I have to develop my ignorant natural being. Into what? Into an illumined divine nature. This is the significance of life, and this is the aim of human existence according to India. And India also claims, whether consciously or unconsciously, whether you are doing it consciously or not, whole actions of your life is ultimately directing you, directing your finite consciousness towards this self. But maybe right now it is unconscious. But you can accelerate this process if you become conscious of this fact. Whether you are willing to or not willing to, you are being driven to the infinite consciousness. You are being driven to that infinite through your life action. Maybe right now unconsciously. But if you can become conscious of this process, unconscious process, then process could accelerate. It can be accelerated. And lastly, all these things, if you can remember one Upanishadic mantra, and which perhaps you have heard many times, the whole sense of these things, the progressive growth of finite consciousness of man, or growth of spiritual consciousness by the development of ignorant natural being into illumined divine nature, is nothing but asatu ma sadgamaya, tamasu ma jyotirgamaya, mrittur ma amritam gamaya. This life has to be a journey from asatu ma sadgamaya, from unreal to real, from ignorant natural being to illumined divine nature. From tamasu ma jyotirgamaya, from darkness to light, and from mortality to immortality, mrittur ma amritam gamaya. This is the sense of Nara becoming Naruttam, and finally becoming Narayan. Mrittur ma amritam gamaya. So life has to be a journey from unreal to real. Life also has to be a journey from darkness to light. Life also has to be a journey from mortality to immortality. With this note, let me allow you to conclude. Thank you.